have.
Yeah, I suspect.
Jeff, could you do me a
Yeah,
favor? It looks like there's
shoot.
quite a crowd there, and I don't recognize all the people. Could you just perhaps tell me who's there? If you know.
Yeah, I'll have them all introduce themselves.
Oh, I didn't want to take a lot of time.
Okay, we are now reporting and it is past 6 o'clock, so I'll call the meeting to order at whatever time it is, 6:03. And if you could rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Flag is there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Okay, so if we could go around the room, sir, if you'd introduce yourself.
Sam Murphy.
Sam Murphy. And behind you is?
Linda Palmer.
Linda Commerce. Did you hear those?
I heard the first one, not the second one.
Say it again.
Linda Palmer.
Linda Palmer. Penny Alley.
I know her.
John Rice. Walter's here.
Yeah.
And in front of him,
Tom Sherrill.
Tom Sherrill.
Thank you, Jeff.
Sure. So first thing is adjustments to the agenda. And I've got two things. One is the state stabilization bill. And where we stand with that, I think we just probably ought to discuss that lightly. And the other is we just got a DMR application that needs our signature, an elected official's signature on it for a pier or a float that was destroyed, and DMR is requiring them to redo it. So take those up when the time is appropriate. Did you have anything to add, John?
Yeah, I do, but I have a question on not yours. When you say the stabilization program, are you talking about the property tax stabilization or the EMS?
Yes. Yeah.
I thought that was, isn't that on the agenda as E?
Oh, let me look.
Yeah, it is.
Under new business. Oh, okay. Never mind. I
Okay.
don't have to add it.
Well, that's why I thought maybe you were talking about the other stabilization. Seems so that's what we got. I would like to just very briefly speak to the DEP report that we got on the stump dump.
Okay.
And also I would ask that, I know Terry sent us an email with her follow-up with Kristen regarding us interviewing people, but since that question came from a member of the public, I would request that Terry give us a very brief update on that. So the public, I just feels like that needs to be closed in the public loop.
Right.
I also wanted to give you a brief update of the meeting that Catherine Lerm, Sandra Wallace, and I had with Nate Beal this morning regarding a possible survey of the Smith property.
Okay.
And I have one other thing. I'd like to talk about grant applications in general. I'll explain it when we get there. They should all be brief.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. So very, very quickly, I'm going to ask members of the public that are here. We have at the very end, if you have something you want to bring up, we've put it at the end. But if there's something specific you're here for that's not on the agenda, if you could briefly tell me what that is. Is there something? Okay.
Do we have a 3-year contract with the Polk Humane Society? I think it's on the agenda.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I think it comes due and we just need to renew it. Is the reason it's on the agenda.
Hi, this is Susan Hart. Can you hear me?
Yes, Susan?
Hi, I tried knocking on your door today, John. I own a cottage down on Spruce Head, which is next to the road in question in front of 302 Island Road, and protection of that roadway with the rock wall that has been really pretty devastated by the storm. So that's why I signed on to this meeting.
Okay, well, I have no clue what that's,
I can speak to that
It's
at
on the-
okay,
whenever you want, Jeff.
okay, all right, so. And that's not something that's already on the agenda, because I haven't.
No,
Okay.
no,
It is on.
Yeah,
the-
it is.
It is on the agenda kind of further down. I don't know if it's G or something like that.
It's on the new business.
I think it is.
Okay,
oh, yeah, yes, all right, yeah, I asked Terry to put that on late in the agenda, sorry.
That's
all
fine.
right,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, so before we move on to old business, review and approve the prior minutes. I think we've got two of them, January 16th and January 31st. I would entertain a motion.
I move approval of the minutes as presented of January 16th and the 31st, 2024.
I have a second.
I wasn't at the 16th. So
Okay, so I'll second. Do you want me? Do you
You
want to
wanna do a-
separate?
You
Yeah,
want
I'll
to separate them?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. It'd be easier.
All right, I'll make a motion. We approve the minutes of January 16th, 2024.
I'll second that. Any further corrections, additions? Hearing none. All those in favor, John?
John, I.
And you're gonna abstain?
yes,
And Jeff, I. So 2-0-1.
I'll make a motion. We approve the minutes of January 31st, 2024.
I'll second that.
Any updates, edits, corrections? Hearing none. All those in favor, John?
John, I.
Sue, I.
Jeff, I. 3-0. Okay, update on the building use form. I don't, Penny, had you seen the new one?
Yes, I believe this is the one that was sent out.
Yes, that John sent out prior to the last meeting.
Yes, it's long.
Yeah.
I guess I'm still, kind of up in the air about a for-profit group being charged for the facility use. And is that only when they're making money using the building, or is it, would I have to charge the Spruce Head Co-op for their meeting because they are a for-profit group? Even though they weren't using it to make money.
Yeah, I think our feeling was that it would be up to you to decide whether you wanted to charge them for it, but I'm not sure that's how it's reflected in the policy. John, I mean.
Yeah, well, again, I was gonna take it out and I went back and reviewed that MMA material that Terry gathered up for us. And they basically said we can't do that, that we're providing a service for it would be like plowing a private road. I think the fee can be minimal. $10. We didn't talk about that, and that's one of the questions I have. $10 an hour or something like that, and that keeps it simple. I mean, I think it can be minimal because I don't think meetings down there are going to add a lot of cost. And we do have another provision in there that says if they do add a lot of cost, that we can recoup those costs, which is not a fee, but they would have to reimburse us for the additional, I don't know, suppose we had to hire a cleaning service to come in and clean or something, who knows what. So, I don't think we can take it out based on what the guidance I read from. I think we can make it minimal, but I don't think we can take it out.
I also
And what
think You need to
Right.
be consistent. I think you need to be consistent if you're gonna charge people that aren't nonprofits, then you have to charge them all. You can't pick and choose. If
And
they're, you know,
I'm actually surprised the co-op is a for-profit entity, but
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't either, but
Yeah, it depends on how they were
They're gonna
incorporated.
make
Right.
money.
Right, but they might be a 501c3 or.
Yeah.
I don't know.
or they can be a nonprofit corporation and not a 501c3. I mean, like
Right.
the golf course in Rockland is not a 501c3, but it's a nonprofit corporation. So, but so I guess that's an issue I had on my list. We need to set the fee, assuming we keep it in. I got the insurance limits from Terry. I can work that in. Jeff, your question, I looked back and it is addressed at C4.
Okay,
You had a question about the language that says this prohibition shall not include a caucus of a political party officially recognized by the state of Maine or a candidate forum or debate or similar informational event.
okay, good.
And it doesn't mean just Democrats and Republicans. It's any registered party, of which I think there's 2 more now.
Right.
And then the last thing is I would, if we can come together on everything here, I would ask, I can make it a lot smaller so it won't seem as long. I just made it bigger font and big lines to make it easier to follow. But I would also ask that Terry or Phil, actually probably Phil, proofread it.
Good.
That's all I have on it. But so I think the only question I have, well, I thought the only question I had is how much the fee was going to be, but it now seems like there's a question of if we're going to charge a fee at all.
So I'm not opposed to that. I just don't know when to charge the fee.
Well, if it's a for-profit, if they tell you they're not, that's good by me.
And I think it should be minimal, because Percent Co-op is also a member of our community, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, and that's why I think it should be an hourly thing, because if someone wants to come in there and, I don't know, start selling stuff or something, I suppose, how many hours, or, I don't know. But, and the other thing is, this is just a policy, it's not an ordinance. If we find glitches, we can revisit it.
True.
But I would propose we keep the fee in and just make it $10 an hour.
Does that work for you, Penny?
Yeah, I guess. If it's gonna be an hourly rate, I'd rather be $5 an hour or $10 per use. Most things exceed an hour, but don't go beyond 2.
True.
Okay, I'm open to $5. I just want to be in compliance with the legal opinion we got from MMA.
I would just like to see a flat fee of $10 per use when applicable, rather than an hourly fee. I mean, this is all getting into bookkeeping and housekeeping and.
I'm agreeable to that too. I don't really care, as long as I think we do need to comply with the legal advice we got from MMA now that we have it. If we hadn't asked the question.
So $10 per use,
That's what I would,
going once, going twice. Okay. So do you want to finalize it and send it around? Do you want us to go ahead and vote pending your updates to the?
I would, I'm hoping to put this to bed. So I'm hoping, I was intending to make a motion, to finalize, to approve it with those adjustments that we just talked about. Cause so your question wasn't an adjustment. That was just a question.
Correct.
And any And when the proofing, I'm simply looking for spelling errors, and stuff, periods missing and stuff like that, not looking to change wording. Unless something comes up, then we'd have to come back to you. So if you're agreeable, I got the limits from Terry on the insurance. I think we just agreed on, we are gonna charge a fee, and it's gonna be $10 per use. So with those changes, I'll make a motion that we approve it with those changes. Sorry. That was a little redundant. I'll make a motion that we approve it with those changes.
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion?
I would just ask Penny, if after we do this a few times, if you see any problems at all, please feel free to come back to us and we can maybe quickly fix it.
Well, I see a lot of them maybe popping up that would require, more clarification from the board, but I guess until it happens, it's probably not an issue. There's just, the insurance, it shows what they show. Do they show it to me? Do they have to show it to the town administrator? Who does the bookkeeping as far as collections and receiving, these kind of things, but.
But those all strike me as administrative details that the town administrator and you, the department head, can work out. Personally, I don't see the need for the board to get into that level of minutia. I mean,
Yeah.
Obviously it's funds to the town,
So
general
the
revenue.
administrator can decide who looks at insurance. And
Pardon? I can't hear that.
the proof of insurance. And what's required, that can all be decided by the town administrator.
Well, that's who needs insurance is in the policy.
I know, but what do they have to make a copy of some certificate to bring in?
Yeah, I mean,
I would think that
typically,
would be appropriate.
Yeah. so
typically their insurance agent will just fax a certificate of insurance to the town office. Terry, you do that all the time, right?
Yep.
With contractors and. It literally sometimes you can get it in 10 minutes, right?
Yeah, as long as the other person's not busy, you
Yeah.
just do it.
Yeah.
Easily.
Well, that's my motion.
Any further discussion? Call for the vote, John,
John, I.
Sue,
Do I?
Jeff, I. 3-0. And again, Penny, if there's any policy issues in it that pop up, come back to us so we can get it. Because it doesn't have to go any further than the select board, so. Okay. Budget timeline, Terry. I think saw something.
Do you wanna hold that till the end after?
After we get through some of the other stuff?
Yeah, I'm not sure everyone's gonna be all that interested in that.
That's true. I don't know. I think some people might be interested.
Okay.
But if we've got some stuff that's gonna take a lot less time, let's go ahead and press on with that. Update on the ambulance billing.
Yeah, if I can find my background notes, I can tell you what I talked to them about.
Basically, it sounded all good.
Yes, she said that, if someone came in after they got the letter saying they wanted collections and said, oh, I'm gonna fill out this hardship form, I can just call her and pull them from collections and no fee will be charged because they're not collecting anything.
Okay.
Will never be charged unless they collect something.
Or we collect something.
Oh, we collect.
Once we've given it to them, if we collect it,
Yeah,
they come in and say, okay, here it is.
Yeah.
We still gotta pay it. Okay.
Yeah.
I just a brief comment on that. I would assume, Terry, you mean not only do they have to submit the form, you have to approve it. If someone comes in and says, I'm Aristotle Onassis, you're probably not going to approve it. So.
Do you want to talk about tax acquired properties in a general way rather
Well,
than
is
as
it-
a specific?
I think Mr. Murphy would like to speak to you about his animal meeting. He's here.
Okay. Is his on the list?
Yes,
Yeah,
Oh,
it's a top one.
oh, okay.
and I do now have a check to pay his back taxes,
Oh, you do?
yes.
Okay. So did you want to speak to us about?
Well, I'd like to know where we're headed.
Well, you paid the back taxes and
Yeah,
okay.
we were supposed to be here before the deadline and I called them and they lost it or something, because that's why it came after the deadline. And,
Let me
So-
clarify, we didn't lose it. Enquist
no,
was in charge of it, we didn't
Okay.
get it until the.
I started this in July. I had health issues, so everything got screwed up.
Well, that is, so, I mean, unfortunately, it's already been acquired, right? Because of the timeline, the state timeline.
Right.
But we'll just do a quick claim deed and you're back whole.
I'll
Right?
make a motion, we issue a quick claim deed to Samuel Murphy. And I do have a question after I make this motion. For the property located at 130 Ledge Road, map 11, lot 1207, to convey it back to Mr. Murphy, the former owner.
I'll second that.
Okay, further discussion, John?
Is Terry, do we know that is Mr. Murphy the only owner of record? There's no one else
Yes.
on that? Huh?
Um,
I'm asking Terry.
There's no one else listed in Trio. And that would generally have other owners. If there
Yeah,
was
but
one.
when you did
I
your,
didn't
when
look
you did
to
your,
the-
when you did your search, you would have seen other.
Right, I sent it, just the
Yep.
notices all just to Mr. Murphy.
Okay. Then I guess I would just ask that I'll make the motion condition that you double check that he's the only owner of record. And if, assuming that is true, then, so that would be just a minor contingency. I just don't want to cut anyone out who has a legal interest here. And I'm not saying anyone does, but
Okay, any further discussions? For the vote, John,
John, I.
Sue, I.
Jeff, I. 3-0. So that's where you stand.
Thank you.
Mhm. And the other two are still in the same status, right? We haven't received anything,
Yeah.
updates on those. And I think this might be an opportunity. We don't have it separately on the list.
Okay.
Yeah, because the state, just so everybody knows, the state has changed the process for what the town does on tax acquired properties. To put it in a nutshell, in the past, once the town has acquired it, the practice has always been that we would be willing to sell it back to the owners of record for the past taxes and any penalties or costs the town had incurred. And then we'd do just like we did there, a quick claim deed, giving it back to them. If nobody did pay it, and it went an extended period of time, at some point, the town may or may not put it out for sale. And traditionally, when we've done that, we haven't made a lot of money off of it. But the practice in the state of Maine was, if we did make money, it went to the town coffers. The new requirement is that if there is money made, then it has to go back to that extra money has to go back to the owner, to the previous owner. And what that requires is an additional cost that also the town incurs, to get it appraised. The state has to do an appraisal on it. There's a process for going to the state. and listing that item, get that property, getting it appraised, and then selling it. And if it sells for a profit, none of the profit goes to the town. It goes back to the owner of record. So there's a cost to them. I mean, because the appraisal is going to cost some money, and that the town does not have. The town gets to recoup that. So it's all the towns in the state of Maine are now facing and figuring out how to do this. And they recently, Maine Municipal Association has recently given out some guidance on how to do it. So these two properties will fall under the new rule. We don't have any others, do we? We do, don't we? Would they fall? The other two properties that we acquired on the
In
west.
the past,
Yeah.
We only have one of them. The other people bought it back.
Yeah,
I can't hear Terry.
okay.
I'm sorry, John. I don't know if the one tax acquired property we have, if we sold it, if it would fall under these guidelines. The one we had acquired last year.
Yeah, I think that's something we need to check on, because I don't know if it's tax acquired, if the law now applies to properties that we acquire after the law goes into effect, or if we've got property that.
you would think it would be from this law forward,
I would think so too.
but
Well, I think it may be from the date of the Supreme Court decision forward. Because remember,
yeah.
what triggered this was that Supreme Court decision,
Good point. Yeah.
but there's no building, nobody living on that property, so I don't think we're facing a lot of liability there. What concerns me is under this new law, we have to hang on to this because there's 2 90-day periods and someone could be living. I mean, MMA used to be worried, the insurance people, that we, the town, and they as insurers could be brought into it if someone got hurt on the property. So this kind of flies in the face of that. But you're right. I mean, there's 2 90-day periods here. So this is going to take a long time to even get them out to a
Right.
bid. But also, Jeff, typically what we've done in the past is and Terry can help me a little, we've issued a letter to the owners saying that the property has foreclosed, it no longer belongs to you. And we'd be willing to sell it back to you for a certain thing, but if you do it by a certain date, and then we send it first class mail, registered mail, and we've had Terry hand deliver it. Which we did with a property last year, right, Terry, if I remember?
Yeah, so they wouldn't come to the door, so I sent Hannah. And they opened the door for Hannah.
She took care of them, huh? So, I think as a first step, we should do that. The other thing we got to do is we got to go through a real estate agent. So
right,
how are we going to select a real estate agent? Are we going to put that out to some sort of bid or a letter of interest and ask, what's your commission going to be? I mean, I think, and we're only required to give them a quit claim deed. Typically the properties we require, you're not going to get a lot of money if you're only given a quit claim deed. I mean, that's drives the price down dramatically, So anyways,
There are sample letters in your packet like that we took last year, and if you come up with a date, I could easily change them and print them so you can sign them tonight and get them out.
yeah, I don't think we need to be quite as quick as we used to be, because now we can't even, if I'm reading this correctly, we can't even, what's the first 90-day window?
Well, we have to send the letter 90 days before we can list
Yeah.
it for sale. So
But,
I think that's.
yeah, but we have to, but that letter has to ask them if they want to go through the real estate, the new process. They don't have to. They can opt out of that and just let us sell it, I believe. I just feel like tonight we need to study this a little more. And, because I didn't see the thing about the appraisal, I did see where it said the real estate agent had to give you an anticipated sale price. Um, but I would like to get the initial letter out that we did last year, and I guess I'll make a motion to authorize the town administrator to do that.
Second that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, because it says a state,
They have a form,
yeah,
and I'd like to get a copy of that form. I just read some of this afternoon. So I guess I'm not prepared to discuss it intelligently, other than getting that initial letter out.
How long would you like to give them to pay their taxes?
They're not taxes anymore.
Well,
right, to buy it.
Well, no,
back.
and that's an important distinction. They don't owe any taxes because they don't own it.
do you want them to pay 1 year's worth of what would have been their taxes? We did that last year with one person and it's back.
Right.
Or do we
Yeah.
want to require the whole amount paid?
Yeah, well, I'm more, personally, I'm more open to that if someone is living there. Because I think for some of these people coming up with the amounts of, all the taxes that were due before it foreclosed can be difficult. And then you're right, we'll go through the same thing again next year probably, but what I don't want to do ever do is get on a payment plan.
Right, right.
That's a disaster. I'm open to, well, you need to know for the letter, right?
Right.
When's the next foreclosure for the next year?
Oh,
A year.
about a year.
A year,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, given the fact that someone's living there, I guess I would be inclined to say they need to pay the taxes and costs associated, what would have been the taxes and costs associated with the first year. I don't really, I think that makes it a little easier on them, and I'm not really interested in making someone homeless.
Yep.
But I don't know how Stu and Jeff feel.
No, I agree with you.
no, I do too, and what it's really doing is just giving them extra time to
Right.
pay is.
Yeah.
Uh.
Yeah, but we need to be very specific in that quitclaim deed that we're not releasing. And we have one.
Yes, because that's what
Kristen
we,
did one.
that's what we
Kristen
did
did.
last year.
Yeah,
We have.
very
the copy.
specific that we're not releasing subsequent taxes.
Yeah.
Our interest in that. So I'll make a motion that we, number one, issue the letter and with the amount due for the first year. I think you know what I mean by that, Terry. You can wordsmith that a little. The amount that would have been due for the first year, with interest to date, and have it sent first class mail, certified mail, and hand delivered, giving them, I don't know, 45 days, 30
And
days.
include the form in there, the state form that's required.
I wouldn't, we're not, I don't think we're at that point personally.
Okay,
Because
so
if
you
they
want,
come in and pay this, we're done with it for now.
yeah,
No, I don't think I would. I think that would confuse things, Jeff.
okay, all right, so we're really not implementing the new steps yet until
Right.
we're doing a preliminary step for it.
We're
Okay.
giving them one more time, one more chance to come in and pay.
You understand that?
I think so. I can always go back and listen to the recording.
Okay, all right. All right,
Well,
so
if-
any
if-
further, just go ahead.
If someone's unclear, are you and Sue clear what I'm proposing?
Yes.
Yes, I
Okay.
am.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that the implementer is clear.
I'm clear at what you're saying, John, but I didn't get all your words, but I can go
Yeah.
back and listen. to
Okay.
it.
Okay, so I do have one other question. You told me before that someone's living in both these places. Do you believe that's still the case?
Yes.
Okay,
Right. Last chance for discussion. For the vote, John,
John, I.
Sue, I.
Jeff, I, 3-0. Discussion on the estimate for the trim work on the Little Red Schoolhouse. Did,
I can speak to this if you want.
yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, Bev, St. Clair has been, well, I think most of you know the shingling's done. And Bev St. Clair has been looking around to try to come up with someone who would paint it, the trim, and she came up with someone and got a bid and or price, I should say. She had no, she couldn't find anybody else, basically. Um, and um, she is kind of recommending, and I told her that I would support her recommendation to you tonight that we prove this because if he's going to do it this summer, he needs to know so he can get it scheduled. Um, so that's kind of where it's at. The the painting or the additional painting on the shingles themselves is a recommendation that the guy who did the shingling made because he felt that it would extend the life dramatically. And when he cuts them and shaves them and installs them, you know, it creates a lot of, even though they were pre-dipped, it does create, for lack of a word, voids in the coating coverage. And this second coat on the shingles would help mitigate that and hopefully extend the life of the shingles.
Okay, so the total of the
Yeah,
work
I don't
they're
have
asking,
that.
I think, is it 12,350? Is it's 7,850 and 4,500?
I don't have that in front of me. I'm sorry,
Okay,
but that sounds right.
okay,
And his recommendations were very good. I don't know if you saw that.
yeah.
And I guess I'd also like to thank Bev publicly for putting a lot of effort into this.
Right. Yeah, I can definitely support that. I think it's needs to be done.
Can I suggest something? Just
Yeah.
looking forward about painting and the new clapboards,
Yeah.
saying them, don't paint them.
Yeah, it is. They are already stained, and I
Okay.
think they're going to be a second coat of stain.
Yeah,
Yeah, I said paint just to.
yeah.
Yeah, in his proposal, he even quotes the brand he's going to use. So.
Yeah.
I think they requested that brand. Because that's what they had used before.
Right.
All right. So, John, you want to make that a motion?
Yeah, I'll move that we, provided we can get the proper insurance and paperwork, that we engage Mr. Karen, I think, is that the name of it? Is it? I can't
Yes,
recall.
Steve Karen.
Steve Karen to paint the trim. And he's not only painting it, but he's doing all the prep work and everything. And second coat on the of stain on the shingles in the amount of, and I don't have that number.
$12,350.
Yep.
Thank you, Sue.
Welcome. I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor, John?
John, I.
Sue, I.
Jeff, aye. Okay,
And-
execute. Oh, go ahead, John.
Yeah, just as a quick note, question to Terry. We definitely have enough money left in that account, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's 31,000 a year.
Oh, yeah, that's right there. Okay. Thank you. I'll let Bev know.
Okay, execute 3-year agreement with Pope Memorial Humane Society. And we've got a copy of it.
I move we execute the new 3-year agreement with Polk Memorial Humane Society.
I'll second that.
May I ask what the agreement is?
This is the one that allows town residents to take feral cats there, right? And also
The dog, yeah.
the dog catcher can
I just wanted you to be aware that they're a kill shelter. My husband and I walked dogs for a year, 2 mornings a week. And we stopped because 3 dogs were killed that should not have been killed.
Can I comment on that?
yeah, go ahead, John.
My wife has volunteered there for years. And I know what she's referring to. But I would say there was a debate about whether or not they should be, an internal debate over there. So I wouldn't characterize them as a kill shelter personally. So, and I don't think we have many other options either.
Right. Yeah, the state law requires us to have an agreement with a state licensed animal control shelter for stray dogs and cats.
Jeff, do we pay them for this service?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
May I ask how much?
It is. There isn't a change in that, right? It's stayed the
Went
same.
up a little bit.
It didn't. Colon.
I don't know if the money's in here, but I had to bill up. In the office.
I saw it.
I didn't read it in the,
Look at the budget.
it's not in the minutes.
There it is. A per capita rate of $1.61 times 1,622 town population. Made quarterly.
I'm getting down there.
Hmm.
I think it's like $3,600.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. So it'd be somewhere around 32, 36.
I know they do get a lot of donations. There was a doctor in Friendship who put up $75,000 if the Pope would match that, and they did. And they put solar panels on the building, and the animals don't always get the vet care that they need. When a dog bites someone, which does happen, a lot of the dogs are abused. They're brought up from the South. They're supposed to put the dog in isolation for 10 days. They didn't do that with Max. They killed him the next day. And he was supposed to go back to the shelter in New York that he came from to be retrained. And one of the directors of the Pope thought about adopting Max before he left. And he went into the little visitor room with a little couch in it, and he crossed his leg, and Max thought he was going to bite him, thought he was going to kick him. So unfortunately, he bit him. And the next day he was put down. I asked if we could adopt Max, and they said, well, if he bites anyone, you could be sued. And I asked if I could be with the dog when they euthanized him, and they said no, because he's going to fight it. And they were supposed to buy new mats. There's a pavilion with a cement floor that has an interlocking.
I absolutely feel for you, and I'm a dog and animal lover, but there's nothing in what you're saying that we can do anything about.
It's the way that they're run.
But we're not running it,
Yes.
okay? We are entering into a state mandated contract with them to allow our animal control officer to be able to utilize their facilities for stray dogs and cats. And if we don't do it with them, we've got to do it with somebody else. I don't know of any other state authorized facility that's anywhere near us. So what's before us right now is to extend the contract, and it's been moved and seconded. And unless there is any further discussion, John, you got anything else you want to?
Well, I'm just gonna say, if someone, if I don't know who's speaking, but if down the road she's got another option, I'm all ears.
Thank you for explaining that.
No problem, thank you. Okay, all those in favor, John,
John, I.
Sue, I.
Jeff, I. 3-0. No plow contract, another one that's coming up.
Yeah, I asked Terry to put this on the agenda.
Thanks.
Um, I'm concerned. Now that I've become more familiar with what's happening at the stump dump and the snowplow contract, I think if we're gonna put this out for seeking proposals, we need to somehow tie in the work that's done at the stump dump. Because right now, Jim Calic, who has our contract, keeps a backhoe out there all year round and uses it twice, sometimes 3 times a week to compact the cans, the roll-up bins, I guess I should call them, push the brush pile up. And if someone had to cut, if we don't intertwine that with our snowplow contract, and someone had to trailer a machine down there 3 times a week, I think that's going to get exorbitantly expensive. So I think we need to somehow make that part of this contract, that they will keep a piece of equipment down there and make an operator available in a timely basis. Because if we get a bunch of quick loads coming in and the cans get filled up, we need to get that tamped down quickly before it opens next. So I just feel I'm willing to work if we want to put it out to bid, which perhaps not bid, but seek proposals. Perhaps it is time, because we've extended it now 2 or 3 times, I think. But I do think we need to weave that piece into it. And I guess the other question I have is, do we want to continue with the arrangement that at some point was changed? Matt, perhaps Walter, if he's still there, could tell us when. We used to purchase the salt and the contractor would haul it in, we being the town. Now the contractor purchases the salt. Seems to be working fine. It could be because it's never our salt, so to speak. I think the fear was that over the years that if we didn't purchase the salt, the contractor might try to use as little sand and salt as possible. I don't think that's happened here. But if we end up with another contractor, is that going to be a problem? And I also think that when we seek proposals, we really need to put a strong emphasis on the contractor's ability, not just to plow the roads, but to fix his equipment quickly, to that he has the capacity, he or she has the capacity to fix equipment very quickly, has enough manpower, and enough equipment. So, because the last thing I want to do is, maybe save 10 grand and have all kinds of problems, which I have seen happen before. So, I just thought we needed to think about that, and I wanted to kind of let you know what I was thinking now that I've been much closer to this than I ever was before.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. We just went through this kind of a process at the transfer station. And I think maybe I'm a pessimist, but if there aren't that many people out there that are willing to do this, period. And I'm not sure we'll get competitive bids at all. That's my personal opinion.
Well, I'd like to avoid the word bid because bid implies
Yeah,
to me,
right.
and to a lot of
Proposal.
people, that we're going to take the low number, which
Right,
I
right.
personally would not, I think we need to base our selection on a lot more than the low number.
Yeah, I agree. And so I guess my first question is, has Calic indicated that he's not interested in continuing with us?
No, he's interested in continuing, but I think Terry had an inquiry from another contractor. Am I correct, Terry? You don't have to mention who it was, but didn't a contractor or contractor's employee come in and ask you when it was up?
Yeah, we're often asked when it's up.
Oh, by more than one contractor?
No,
Oh, okay. And I believe there's another local contractor who might be interested. I don't want to get into names and stuff at this point.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
But you never know until you ask.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And to tell you the truth, I was a little bit surprised that we didn't get the interest at the transfer station that we were expecting to get.
People are busy,
Yeah,
and
but I talk a little bit more about the stump dump thing. Isn't that an out of season normally? I mean, the requirement is normally the requirement you
No.
would be asking for would be normally that equipment would be there when they're not plowing, right?
I'd see. Yeah, the current contractor keeps a backhoe in the salt shed or outside of it all year long,
Yeah,
and that's an expensive piece of equipment to sit there
yeah,
for 2 or 3 times a week. And I'm just afraid if someone had to trailer a piece of equipment in and out of there 2 or 3 times a week, number one, how quickly can that person do it?
right.
I'm almost thinking that should be a condition of the proposal, that you need to keep a piece of equipment on site, or suggest some alternative means, or something like that. I don't want to close the door on someone, but and also you got to be able to cut a guy or someone loose quickly when we need it. So
Yeah. Now, the thing is, though, we're gonna want to get a request for proposals done fairly soon.
yeah, I'm willing to work on that.
Okay.
I'll use the old one as a template, and I feel that's sort of part of my road commissioner's duties.
Do we have a, because you were talking about their ability to basically perform, right? So we do have a performance bond. But do we have something that
Well,
says,
I don't think we do currently. Do we, Terry?
I don't think so.
it says if
I
the
think
town,
we-
if the town demands, is what it says.
I think
Shall
we
provide.
we waive that in this case because, you know, the current contractor has a solid record of demonstrated
Right.
effectiveness. And that costs him money, which he passes on to us. So
Right.
I think if we went with a new contractor, we would want one. But even with a performance bond, if somebody doesn't perform and it's January, even if
Right.
you got the money.
Yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, the other way to build that in is to have a backup, a prearranged backup. If you're unable to perform, then
You have to have someone else. that can
have
do it.
somebody else that can do it. And then provisions in the contract that if you fail to do it within X amount of time, that we can contract somebody at your expense, so.
Yeah, but the time we're
Yeah.
talking about is a matter of hours, not a matter of.
Right, yeah, I know, no. All
'Cause
right,
that
so
phone's-
you'll
I'll
wrestle with that.
I'll wrestle with that a little. I mean, nothing's gonna make that phone ring in the town office more than,
That is true.
Now, there's a separate issue here, and that's the contract with DOT,
For 131.
yeah, for 131.
Yeah, I just thought, that's good until 2030. I just put that in there for your information.
Okay.
So that it's-
Okay. And that's the one, no matter how much it costs us to do it, even though it says in there that we can go to them for how much it costs us, but they're gonna limit how much they're gonna give us anyway.
That's what they're gonna give us.
Yeah. All right,
but we don't have to do that.
true.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I know why they did it, that, you know, 131, the truck used to come out of Waldorf, go all the way up Route 1 to Thomaston, go all the way to Port Clyde. And he did run out of treatment in the back, you know, coming back up 131. And they probably didn't want to bid it just for that short stretch. So they went to each of the towns, I'm assuming. Which was, I think, is a good collaborative effort.
Okay. Now, property tax stabilization, bro. Yeah, yes, Walter.
When we did the changeover from buying salt and sand from the county and having, the math worked. But the risk was always, you know, understanding, undersalting. The funny thing was the only complaint we got happened before we made the change.
Right.
During my tenure. But, the other thing is that it's not 100% clear to me that we would have done that if Calic hadn't been the provider. Because it's not clear to me that we would have wanted to take that risk
Right.
with an unknown. So that's the history there.
And I
We
think,
never went back and revisited the math after we did it the first time.
Yeah.
After we did the first renewal.
and correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't it also involve the fact that Calic was doing St. George and us, and there was some feeling by some folks that our salt was being used on their roads and okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think from a logistics point of view, it makes perfect sense. I mean, what, you know, it just does, you know, particularly if someone's doing two adjacent towns. And I have received one complaint in 3 years about undersalting and sanding. And that was on the hill going down to the co-op.
Yeah.
Which is a tough spot to begin with. So.
Yeah, and matter of fact, the comments I get is they can always tell when they get into South Thomaston, the roads are much better than surrounding towns.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. So, property tax stabilization program and the shortfall.
Well,
for-
Jeff, can we
Yeah.
back up a second?
Sure.
Another option here is simply extend it again. If we're happy, we can do that.
Yeah.
I'm not asking you to do it tonight, but I don't want to spend a lot of time working on it if that's what we're gonna do. But I'll start looking at it and dusting it off.
Yeah, I mean, we've extended it at 3 years at a whack, right? Several times.
I don't recall. I think we've extended it quite a bit, and I think we probably do. It is time probably to,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I just wanted to call that to your attention. If everything's hunky-dory.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I asked specifically if he had indicated he was not interested, but.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay, so property tax stabilization program shortfall. So as many people predicted, the boon that the state threw to everybody over a certain age in Maine who owns property, that they could freeze their taxes at a level and never pay more taxes than they did in that 1 year, would go on forever and ever. And after 1 year, the state finally realized that, oh, we can't afford this. We're not going to honor it. So they are doing away with it. So everybody got their taxes frozen for 1 year. Not everybody who is eligible. And so this coming year, well, two things with that. One is they had anticipated several $1 million to have to repay the towns. So the towns were going to be whole with this amount that was not being taken from eligible taxpayers. And the state came up with, for that year, they only had half of what they need to make the towns whole, basically half. And in fact, for this year, each town is going to receive only half of the reimbursement. So every town in the state of Maine now is in the hole and intends to be in the hole. And right now they're working on a fix for that to get it into the next budget, to do an emergency supplemental, to a whole bunch of different ways that eventually they think they're going to make us whole, maybe next year. But the worst part about it is for our taxpayers who are going to see their next tax bill and not realize until they see it that it is going to include the increase that they didn't pay last year, plus the increase on this year. So for those of us who froze their taxes, you're going to see a double hit. It will appear you're seeing a double hit. The reality is it's where you would have been anyway, but it's going to look like your taxes went up, not the 5% that the overall taxes go up, but by the 5% and the 8% from the previous year. So you're going to see a pretty good hit. And again, I don't know when they're going to make the towns whole. So we may end up with a deficit this year that we have to eat. John, did you have something you wanted to add on
Well,
that?
I do. I understand there's been a bill submitted to say, hey, wait a minute, the towns can't wait till next year because they're going to have to tax people to make up for the shortfall.
Right.
Theoretically, you'd get it back, but so there's been a bill submitted to try to have that reimbursement come out of current funds, and I think the MMA is looking for support, written support, and I wholeheartedly. I mean, this was a disaster in my opinion from the beginning, but
Yep.
Agreed.
but I wholeheartedly support sending a letter in support of the bill that I think it's the representative from Freeport, I can't recall her name, has filed that would take it, would make it much more quickly and hopefully would even have the money before July 1st, or at least know we're gonna get it.
Right.
So I would make a motion that we support MMA's request to I think it's too late for oral testimony in front of the committee, but she said even written testimony would be helpful. So I would make a motion that we submit a letter of support for there's an LD number on it. I don't have. Yes, I do. LD 646. Actually,
Oh, yours right
I
there.
take that back. The testimony is Tuesday. The committee hearing is Tuesday, February 13th. But I won't make it there. So Maine Municipal is asking for municipalities to at least attend if you can, but at least send a letter of support. So I'll make that motion
I'll second that motion.
for LD 646.
Okay, any further discussion on that? Yeah, that's next Tuesday, which is our budget day.
Yeah, you'd never get there and back in time.
No,
No,
No, I have a feeling the room's gonna be pretty crowded.
yeah. Well, I do think we ought to send a letter.
agreed.
Well, that's my motion.
Okay. Any further discussion? Last chance. All those in favor, John,
John, I,
Sue, I,
Jeff, I.
can I ask a quick question? Terry, was there a
Sure.
template letter that MMA sent?
I didn't see one, but I can look and see if I can find one.
I thought there was one, like kind of fill in the blanks.
Yeah, I thought I saw one too.
Change a few words here and there.
I'll look.
So is that something that Terry's gonna take care of, or?
I think between Terry and I we'll get it.
Okay.
So,
Yep.
I assume you're authorizing the chair to sign the letter.
I'll make that part of my motion if Sue will make a friendly second.
I'll second.
Okay. And Walter, do you have something?
Yeah, just a comment, on November 29th, the Portland Herald reported that Maine's budget surplus over the next 2 years was gonna be $265 million. It boggles my mind that they can't make the towns whole sooner rather than later, given that situation.
Yeah, I
And
was,
sure to make that, mention that in the letter.
yeah, I was a little surprised by this too. First, I was surprised how far they underestimated how much it was gonna be. Then I was surprised that they didn't have the funds to be able to support it, even if it went over. That just doesn't make sense, but
There's a lot of things that don't make sense in the legislation.
yeah, right. Okay. And then the next thing is road commissioner concerns about the road across from 302 Island Road.
Well, for those of you who don't know, 302 Island Road is across from George Hart, if you know George. It's basically riprap, big granite riprap banking, and then there's the road. Or I don't know, I haven't measured it, but several yards. And in the two latest storms, particularly the second one, I think it was, some people were sending me pictures and I was talking with Terry and I was afraid we were going to lose that section of road there. I mean, it tossed huge granite blocks up onto the roadway. And along with a lot of small stuff. Actually, a storm earlier in December threw a lot of small stuff up there, and I just went down with a shovel and shoveled it back across the road. I think you can still see remnants of it on the lawn across the street. So I think there's a real possibility that we could lose that section of road. And so I took the liberty as road commissioner to call Andrew Hedrich and ask him if he would just take a look at it to see if he had some thoughts about, you know, what we potentially could do. I know there is some grant money available for kind of, I guess I'll call it sort of resiliency, climate change resiliency issues. So you're also going to see in my budget proposal, uh, I think it's $5,000, might be $6,000, to engage a surveyor to get some preliminary work done to at least get a cost estimate done that we could then apply for a grant to fund some or all of that, perhaps another Northern Borders grant that we got for the Island Road raising, which, by the way, would have been completely flooded if we hadn't raised that road there. So I just wanted to I didn't want to get out ahead of you guys, but I just wanted to let you know that I'm kind of working on that, and I'm quite worried about it. Now, there's not a lot of houses and businesses, two businesses down there. Well, one, I guess, McLuhan's, two divisions, but there are houses down there, and I'm worried about it, and it's not something we're going to be able to do easily. I mean, it's probably going to require, permits, and I have no idea at this point what the solution is. But I just wanted to basically just let you know that I'm aware of the situation, was very aware at the time, and I've already taken some steps to maybe some planning steps, if you will, to do it. Jimmy Callick did go down and put the granite back overboard, probably in violation of permits, but I mean, what was he going to do? We couldn't leave the road exposed, and we couldn't leave the granite in the middle of the road. So, so that's all I have to say, and I assume you would support my efforts.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other thing is that I think the second storm, I'm not even sure the state has started the FEMA process, or even declared it. The state hasn't declared the second one as an emergency that triggers all of those other processes. But the first storm was, and I don't know if we put anything in with Maine EMA.
I think Betty said we didn't have enough, the town didn't have enough damage, us. Everyone, she encouraged everyone to send their damage report to the state directly.
Yeah,
But that's private. That was for private
Property.
Yeah.
But what about town property?
Well, I think the problem is that if each storm was considered a separate incident, we didn't meet the $3,000 threshold for each one. We met it if you combine the two.
Combine them.
Because there was a lot of fire department time. So, but I know Betty's on top of that, and we did collect that data, Terry. We have it, right?
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, basically, it was bills from Jimmy Callick and fire department and a little bit of ambulance time.
Right.
And we've collected that. Terry's collected that data, so we have it.
Yeah, and I think that's the category for fixing something before it happens again or gets worse again. That it's a preventative portion of EMA's process. It doesn't get triggered until they declare an emergency for that particular one. So
Yeah, and just to follow up a little bit let me follow up one more thing on the across from George Hart's. There's two cottages right adjacent to this public area that have basically the same riprap wall, if you will, in front of them. And of course, anything we do there is probably, I'm not saying this yet, but it's probably going to either somehow impact that or it's going to have to extend over into that. I just don't think you could, and this is just me talking, not the engineer. Doesn't seem to me you could just jut out riprap right where the road is. You'd have to tailor it back or something. Well, and I know Susan's on, and I believe Susan is the owner of one of those. Hi,
Oh,
Susan.
she's there.
And the reason you didn't get me is because I'm in Georgia. When you knocked on my door.
Oh, yeah. Well, I drove up yesterday from Boston and was down on the island all day today. I've walked that whole shoreline and talked to some others. So yeah, so I thought I'm just gonna take a chance and knock at on your door. But
Yeah.
anyway, thank you for working on that. And actually, John, I'm gonna send you an email so you can keep me apprised of what's happening with that strip.
Okay. Yeah, this will probably be a process. I mean, yeah.
Yes,
So,
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
yeah. Oh, and my understanding is that DOT did fix the approaches, and we're back to 2 lanes on the Sprucehead Island Bridge. I'm glad they, huh?
It's not completely fixed. There's no guardrail there. They've just got big barrels there.
Right, but I mean, they
But
got,
it is 2 lanes.
and they
yeah.
put they put more riprap in there, so if we get another storm, because that was getting really vulnerable there.
Yeah.
And I think in some ways, in that, I was thankful that they did that, because that was getting, I mean, it was really on the approaches outside of the concrete abutments, and it's their bridge, but our road, and I was worried, a little bit that they're gonna say, well, that's not really the bridge. That's your responsibility, town, but they didn't, they took it right on, and I guess you could argue, where does the bridge start and where does the bridge stop, so.
Right.
That's all I have on that.
Okay, so in the same vein, we ended up with some folks came in here tonight with they've been asked by DMR to resubmit a new application for their commercial facility, I guess. And it needs a signature from an elected official of the town. And so I would entertain a motion to authorize the chair to sign after we checked with the Shellfish Committee to make sure that there's no issues associated with it.
Can I ask where the property is?
Passaic Road.
And this
West
is-
River.
And this is a replacement?
It looks like it's a temporary replacement. They're not actually replacing
They're
it.
not replacing it with what was there.
Right.
Is it bigger or littler?
Well, they said 20 by 20, and this would be 3 to 4 by 20.
Yeah, so it appears to be smaller. And it doesn't look like it's gonna go out as far as the other one did.
And DMR has approved it, or this is just to get it in front of DMR?
This is what they have to do for the DMR,
Right, yeah.
but they need a town signature first.
So we're not actually approving it, we're just sort of saying we're aware of it and.
Right, and yeah, and so that's why we're having the Shellfish Committee look at it, because
Yeah.
just in case, we're just saying that there's nothing we're aware of that would stop this from happening. And I just want to make sure that somebody who's a little smarter on this, that can tell me that, in fact, that's true.
I'm gonna scan it and send it to the Shellfish Committee tomorrow, and I can send it to you too, if you wanna look at it.
Well, I think it'll probably be a moot point by then, but yeah, sure. I assume they want to do this quickly. That's why it's an adjustment to the agenda.
Yes, yeah, I first tried to push them to the planning board, since the planning board deals with piers. I mean, for some reason, I was thinking it was a pier initially. I didn't realize it was a aqua farm, basically.
I don't have enough information to make a motion.
Well, I'll make the motion then to authorize the chair to sign the application pending review by our shellfish committee.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? John,
John, I.
Sue, I.
Jeff, I. DEP stumped off.
Yeah, I sent out an email. We got that report, as you guys saw. Terry did find the operations manual. I knew that was around.
And we sent that to her. We sent that to the inspector.
No, I didn't know I was supposed to.
Yeah, I think she said either send it or
I can do that.
yeah.
I thought she said just let you know that we have it or something.
Okay.
You might want
Okay.
to check with her. She probably doesn't want 460 operations manuals in her office, but maybe, I don't know.
I kind of thought Bill was on this and in charge of this stuff, but
Yeah.
I'll follow up on it.
But I did I'm almost positive, I am positive that they told us years ago when we went to burning just brush that we no longer had to test the acid. So I'd like to call her and have a conversation about that. But other than that, I at the next meeting, I'd like to put on the agenda the whole idea of burning. Particularly if we're gonna have to do acid testing and you know, it's a nasty job. I've done it several times. I really don't want to do it. It seems so every time I do it, I get sick from the smoke. And I would like maybe to talk about it at the next meeting to maybe try a week or two of putting it in the can and just taking it out of sight. I mean, we talked about that before. We've never done that. And just see what impact that has on our tonnage for a couple of weeks. If you guys would be, I'd like to talk about that at the next meeting. So that's it, really. For tonight.
Yeah. I thought we had to, again, I don't remember at what time period this was, but we were chipping it for a while and we had not let our burn permit expire. So we were able to burn when the chipping was no longer feasible.
Yeah.
But I thought at the time that we did have to test it. But I don't think we had to test it all the time. And I think I read in there once a year it has to be tested is what I think it said.
Is the testing just so that they can verify that you're only burning wood?
Wood, right? Yeah.
Well, it's not even wood. We used to burn wood, that milled wood, you know, like lumber.
Yeah.
And I mean, and then we never burned pressure treated, but we used to burn painted wood, and then that got nixed, and then we burned clean wood that wasn't painted, and then actually, I almost think the guy went to Jerry and said, you know, if you get rid of this milled wood here, just burn brush, you don't have you get away from all these testing regulations and everything. It's just natural wood, but that's why I want to have a conversation with her.
Okay, so you're gonna follow up with her on that?
I will, yeah. I just
Yeah.
wanted to talk to you guys about doing that before I did it,
Yeah.
but I do think
Yeah.
we got a larger issue there on the burning, but that's not for tonight.
Yeah, because the problem with putting brush and shipping it is it'll cube out. You'll cube out before you wait out. So you'll end up hauling a lot of air.
Yeah, I'm
And
not talking about chipping it, but okay.
Yeah. Alrighty. Kristen's note on hiring or new hires. I think the way I read it, she was more concerned with us doing interviews, basically. It didn't seem she had a problem with us, not physically seeing the person. That didn't seem to be an issue with her. She was more concerned with us doing interviews, hiring interviews. And I've never seen or thought in my mind that we were doing hiring interviews, that the department heads were doing that, and we were just meeting those individuals. But could be wrong. Again, Walter's here. We can ask him what their intent was. Did you interpret it that way, John? Or no?
Well, I think we still have to vote to hire them. I think she was clear there that we're the hiring authority. Unless we
Correct.
had, although I did, even there, I think she said unless we had an ordinance that delegated it or something, but I think we should remain the hiring authority personally.
Yeah.
But but I didn't get the impression, I got the impression she was a little concerned that if we were doing these public hiring interviews, doing them publicly, that could be an issue. Whereas
Yeah.
if you're just meeting and greeting someone. So I didn't feel like she answered the question spot on.
I felt the same way. But I think that if she felt that was an issue, because it was clear in the question, if she had felt that was an issue, she would have said something about it. That was my impression, but
I thought so too.
yeah. So I guess the question is, going forward, do we want to continue doing it the way we are, with the assumption that we're not doing a public interview of a potential employee, but we're doing an interview so that we can be the official hirer? Or do we want to start doing them? I don't want to do them. I don't want to do them in executive session, because part of the purpose is so that the town knows who they are as well.
So the few questions that you ask them, like where they live, and
Yeah,
that's considered the interview?
apparently that's the way she was interpreting it.
But because she doesn't know what we're asking.
Right, yeah, that's true. That is true.
I'd like to revisit this and reread the letter. I'll be honest with you, I didn't study it, and now that you mentioned a couple of things, Jeff, I have a different take on it. Unless you want to call her, Jeff, and try to clarify it a little.
Yeah, I'll try again, because I still have to talk to her about the
Yeah, I knew you would.
other
So
issue. Yeah, so yeah, I'll give her a buzz. You also wanted to talk about the survey of the Smith property?
well, Smith/Klein, which is now the
Right.
town's property. Yeah, we met with Nate Abil, who did a preliminary survey on the Smith property. It's not a stamped final survey, but we, as you know from before, we discussed it, I think, at the last meeting. We thought, let's talk to him first because he's got this, you know, partially done, if you will. So Sandra and Kathleen Lerm and I met with him this morning. Bottom line is, he's interested in the project, surveying the Smith Klein property. And he actually said he could do it this spring, which I don't think we're going to be able to pull off. But if that didn't work, maybe in the fall. Can't do it in the summer because you can't see with all the foliage and leaves. And he indicated he thought it would be about $12,000, which actually was a little better than I thought. So
Right, me too.
now that's not resurveying the town property, other than, of course, establishing the line between the town property and the other property. But Sandra's really working hard on this Land for Maine Futures grant, and she thinks that we got to, a fair chance, they're encouraging us to apply and that we might be able to get it all back. But before we close on it, they're gonna want a survey. So I guess they're looking into some places, some ideas to raise money, to do the survey. I think it was a very productive meeting. Um, and that's really kind of it. He was very helpful.
The grant applications in general. Did you want to talk specifically?
Yeah, I had a request from the chair, Sandy Weisman, of the Facilities Committee when I was talking to her about a board meeting that she wondered who kept track of who was applying for what grants, and I said, well, I don't know that we keep track of them. But I said they have to come to us to get approval. And she says, well, they're gonna start in earnest, hopefully working on applying for grants and stuff, and they're concerned about competing, having competing town applications. So she asked, and I said I'd bring it up in front of you guys, if we could just have the department head maybe make a list of grants that they typically apply for or are considering applying for, just to kind of have a little registry. So nobody gets, wires crossed or whatever. And it struck me as a good idea.
Good
But,
idea.
but we could put this on the next agenda and kick it around a little more, but unless you guys think it's a great idea, we can just ask the department heads to do it, but.
No, I think it's a great idea, which is, it's really the only reason that I feel obligated to approve people getting grants, is to get that visibility across with the other departments, so that.
Yeah.
And
I'll give you a perfect example. They're looking to the Stephen King Foundation. I know Penny in the past has applied and gotten grants from them. And I believe the fire department has too. I don't know if the fire department grants are in another silo or not, but I do think it's a good idea to have, and I know some grants are going to come up that just come across your desk that you never even realized existed. But if we could at least get some of the basic ones down on a piece of paper and update it from time to time, I just thought it was I thought it was a good idea for us too, as a board.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think we should. And I think we can, during the budget process, we can incorporate that, make it part of the budget process.
Good idea. We can talk to them about it at the,
Yeah. So Terry, if you can let the department heads know that we are going to be wanting a list of the grants they typically apply for, and ones currently that they've already applied for working. Because most of the grants we see, but some of them for the fire department, the ambulance, we don't see until it's been awarded, basically.
well, I'm pretty sure we've approved them, most of them ahead of time. I did have a question on one that I don't recall approving, but
Yeah.
Brian was pretty good about that. And I think David has followed that.
Okay. So I think we only have a couple more items. Oh, donation to the ambulance from Barbara Grossman.
I move we accept the donation to the ambulance department from Barbara Grossman.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Thank you very much. John?
John, aye.
Sue, I.
Jeff, I 3-0. So I'll go back to the big one. It's probably going to take a little more time, but the budget, reviewing the budget and town meeting timelines and the agendas. So next week, we meet with department heads on the 12th and the 13th, both of those at 3:30 to receive their budgets. Is there any updates to that or any concerns?
I just did the agenda just like last year.
Yeah,
Um, I can't remember exactly that far, if it worked well or not.
seemed like last
I
year.
think it went pretty smooth.
It did.
I don't remember
Maybe
that,
not
so
first
it must have
year,
gone
but-
smoothly. No, it's a lot to try to do and get through, but
And then April 9th, 10th, 11th, and then the 15th if needed, and that's with the budget committee. And those are all at 4 o'clock, correct? Is that what we decided?
yes,
Okay,
that,
and that works for
that worked for the budget.
the budget committee.
3:30. we can play it.
Okay.
Even the working ones.
Yes,
Did you publish guidelines for the department heads?
yes. You want to send Walter a copy of that? Very similar to the one we did last year, except we used 3.2%
Yeah,
for the COLA this year.
do the setups look okay for the April meetings? It's so hard to predict really
I know.
what issue is gonna come up.
Well, the ones that typically take time are fire and ambulance.
Yeah. Putting them on Thursday is a good one. Good. Okay, now for. So let's talk a little bit about town meetings. So this year officially, our town meeting starts June 11th,
Right,
which is election day, and it starts here, right?
yeah,
So we'll need to elect a moderator then.
Yeah.
We don't wait until the other
Nope.
portion of the town meeting.
No, you have to do it
So
then.
does that mean that we need to be here that morning? John?
I don't think so.
You just need
You need 3 people to elect the moderator.
Yeah, I mean,
Doesn't say
well,
who they
any-
are, right?
any 3 voters.
Yeah. Any 3 registered voters?
The moderator or the moderator elect needs to be there. Because he needs to be sworn in and
Okay, but then the new moderator doesn't have to stay there all day, right?
so he can appoint a deputy.
Appoint a deputy to stay there. Oh, I wonder who that'd be.
I don't know.
Hi, Hannah. Okay, and then, so that happens on election day, which is the 11th. And then we have, they adjourn and then reconvene on the 18th, right? Which will be at the municipal? No,
At the Ash Point School.
at Ash Point School. Okay, and we've already got that locked in?
Yep.
Okay,
and that's at 7.
Yes,
yeah, good.
Terry, could you get a hold of a St. George warrant just to see how they write that introduction up?
I can, but I already got a hold of an MMA one.
All right, okay,
Oh, good.
it's even
But
better.
I'll get one from Tara too.
No, that's fine.
In fact, you could probably ask Hannah about it today because she's taking a class on it. And I think they covered that.
Oh, okay, so the town report must be available a week before the town meeting. So that means it has to be available
But a week before June 11th.
before June 11th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so we moved up this timetable up almost a whole month, right? So we've got to get town report to the printer by May 14th.
We can do it.
Yeah,
We can do it. Hannah's on
okay.
it.
So now
We
we're
have a
going,
lot of our reports already.
yeah,
We don't have a code enforcement one yet, though.
don't have the select board.
Or general assistance, or select board, or road commissioner, but we're working on it.
Okay.
Send emails.
So now we're gonna have to do because we're doing a land use ordinance change, so we've got to have a public hearing. Is it 7 to 14 days prior to the town
I think
meeting?
it's 7.
Okay,
That was like the last, they encouraged you to do it sooner in case you needed to change something.
all right, so it could be earlier than
Yes.
7 days prior. So it still puts it in around the middle of May then. And we want to do public information meetings for that, probably in March and April. That'll work on it. Okay.
Gonna have to. Will that ordinance have to be? Are the changes gonna be more than 10 pages so that we'll have to have it available in the office, or is it gonna be small enough to print with in the warrant?
I think we won't have to print it with the warrant. I think it's gonna be large enough that you're gonna need to, because all the new stuff that Kirsten's adding.
Yeah, I thought it would be
Yeah,
more than 10 pages.
Yeah.
Okay.
so we want to look at the draft warrants.
So I can have a really rough draft for the March 12th meeting. We don't have one again until March 12th.
Okay.
That was a question I had this afternoon. I noticed we didn't have one at the end of March, and I kind of think we need one, but then I got half thinking we couldn't come up with a date.
Yeah, I think we were looking, I thought you were not available the end of March.
No, yeah, I was gonna be, well, some of it I wasn't gonna be. Hang on. Yeah, no, I was part of the problem, no question about it.
Yeah. So, good, because I think we've got one on the 12th and the 18th, right?
In March, yeah.
In March.
Yeah, I could do the 18th. Actually, I do have that on my calendar. I guess I was looking at the 26th.
I have the 18th on my calendar too.
Yeah.
Okay, we're
March.
good then.
Yeah.
Never mind.
No,
But
we're talking about-
but talking about the warrant real quickly, I suggest we continue with the practice of putting a draft warrant in the town report. That gives us a lot more flexibility
Yeah,
and
I
time.
agree. Yeah, I agree.
Are we good on that?
I think so. I think the only thing is the dedication, and although,
Someone's gonna write it.
yeah, somebody's gonna.
Do we
Right.
have it?
Do we have who we're dedicating it
Yeah.
to? Oh,
I
is
think,
that the meeting? That's-
I don't think we formalized it.
That's it.
I think we can do it today. We're gonna,
Mhm.
so.
And we need a cover.
Oh, yeah.
Bill suggested Maggie.
It's not, it's not.
I'll
too
go
bad.
with Maggie.
I think it's great.
The town dog.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think,
I think we got a good start on,
yeah,
it's on our radar, you know, where we're headed.
yeah.
So do you want a
So I
motion
guess-
to go into executive session?
Well, I want to do one more.
Oh, okay.
Public
Sorry.
comment for
Oh,
items
yeah.
not on the agenda.
Yep,
Um,
sorry.
Yeah, anybody out in Zoomy land or in the audience have anything they want to add before we go into executive session? Yes,
I'm sad that the public comment has come at the end of the meeting, because I think people that might have spoken leave long before they get to this point.
well, that's why I gave them an opportunity at the beginning to,
Thank you, I
to let me know.
appreciate that.
The real issue, and they're doing it a lot of places, but is because we're using Zoom, you end up with folks that are stealing the meeting by jumping on Zoom or even coming in physically to a meeting and then taking that time, since it's on the agenda, to discuss something that nobody wants to hear about, or that is so far left or so far right that it just steals the meeting and eats up time. And so a lot of folks, to avoid that, have put it at the end, where those folks don't usually stick around, those malcontents. I think if you do it online, they call you a troll. So it's to avoid the trolls.
Ever having been an issue here.
No, it hasn't been, and it's not an issue till it is an issue. It's one of those things that.
Do they ever just limit the time available for a public comment? I think
Yes.
they do that at the school board meetings as well.
Yeah, and
And nobody ever comments on anything you say, you just get to speak and then go
right,
away.
yeah, and
That's the way the school board
that's
does
the
it.
that's the other thing a lot of them do is which we have traditionally not done here, is you give somebody an opportunity to speak, but you don't respond to it, because unless it's on the agenda, you don't discuss it. So so they can say whatever they want to say. Thank you very much, and that's the way the county does it, and has done it that way for years. But
We're very liberal in letting people participate on
Correct.
agenda items, extremely
Yep.
so.
yeah, and I think we're kind of liberal on allowing a crosstalk and questions to be asked, and those that's not on the agenda. But the problem with that is then you fall into the trap of actually taking action on something that somebody has brought that isn't in the agenda. And now anybody else who wants to who would like to have participated in that doesn't get the opportunity because it's been slammed into the agenda by an outside source. So
But I think I've seen it heard and put on the next agenda. This is something that needs to be on an agenda, so there's public knowledge. I don't know, I think it's kind of like when we started Zoom meetings, allowing people to join the meeting and only by invitation or had to be admitted, and I don't think we have ever run into the problems that other towns have faced.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I don't think we have either. There was something, we had something else. Oh. What was it? They wanted us to support a state move to set up a state grant for trails and. Was
So
that?
I think Sandra wanted that to be on the next, like a next agenda.
Okay.
She would want to be here for that.
Okay, all right. Yeah, okay, let's do that then. All right, I think we're ready. John.
Yeah, I have a question though, Jeff. Do you anticipate us taking action, or possibly taking action when we exit this meeting? When we exit the executive session?
I hope so.
Okay, all right. Well,
I'm hoping we take some action.
I just thought the public should know that, that we may, so.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure where you were, so,
Yeah.
okay. So I'll make a motion, we enter executive session to discuss a personnel matter pursuant to 1 MRSA 4056C.
Oh, I'll second that. Sorry.
And moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor, John?
John, I.
Do I?
Jeff, I. Thank you very much.